Hello and welcome back to my kitchen renovation series. I'm diving straight into this episode because there's lots to show you. If you haven't already, make sure you go back and watch the other videos in this series so you can get caught up to speed with what's happened so far. There's been lots of planning, trips to Coolum Tile and Stone, demo, electrical work and tiling not one but 3 different areas. Alright, let's get started. Because Dave's team was at our house working on my studio and had a couple of hours spare while the roof was being installed, they were more than happy to build and install the range hood for me. We had an exposed stainless steel range hood in our last house, which I didn't love, so I was super excited to be given the opportunity to redesign an integrated range hood that sat seamlessly in with the rest of the space. I wanted to add some curves into this kitchen and knew the range hood would be the perfect opportunity to do this. I had a design in mind, so I showed Dave a few images. We worked on the measurements together, which he then broke down further to give to the guys to build using wood and MDF. And I'm so grateful because there's no way I could have built and installed it by myself. It took 2 of his guys to build it and required a lot of strength and finesse to hold down the MDF while making sure it didn't break. Dave also had to be on hand while the guys were installing it. It was a very detailed and intricate process, and I had bought the exhaust fan a few weeks earlier, so they popped that into the range hood as well. Then I got Jace to help out. At this stage, I was feeling really exhausted, so he applied primer to the wall and range hood, which gave me a really nice break. I really wanted the range hood and wall to be finished in micro cement and got a really lovely local specialist to come by and give me a quote. I was so excited to get him to finish this area, but the more I thought about it, I couldn't justify spending $3,000 on such a small area, so I had to put my thinking cap on. I instinctively knew that the secret to having a beautiful all-white kitchen would be to layer in lots of different textures and materials. So after priming, I started to formulate a plan in my mind. To start with, I covered the range hood in 3 layers of plaster to hide the screws and give it an organic finish. I actually felt like Michelangelo. I had so much fun doing this. I've done a bit of plastering in my time, so I knew attention to detail, repetition, and patience would be key here. This part took a long time because I had to wait a few days for the plaster to fully dry before sanding and repeating the process 3 times. I wanted to create a textured finish, so I decided to experiment by mixing silica sand with paint to create my own bespoke textured finish. Silica sand is what is used in textured driveway surfaces to make it non-slip. So whilst this is not traditionally something you would see on a wall or a range hood, I was very curious to see if it would work out. Okay, so let's do a little test, see what this looks like. Okay, wow, that's crazy. Look at the texture in that. I wonder if you can see that. What I might do is I'll take that out into the daylight, to the sunlight, sorry, so you can have a look, but that's beautiful. It just really depends on like the finish that you want. So I'm happy for it to be, I mean, I think in my mind I thought it was the texture was going to be like a lot more chunky, but this is stunning. Let's take this out to the light so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm wondering if you can see that. I don't have my glasses on, but there is a lot of texture there and it looks absolutely gorgeous. I think I'm going to practice a bit of restraint here and not put any more sand in it because I think this is absolutely gorgeous. And now I'm wondering too if I should use a roller, which wasn't my plan. I was just going to use a paintbrush, but I think a roller might actually be the best way to apply this texture paint. I might do a little test with a roller to see what that looks like. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is see what the application looks like using 2 different roller brushes. Okay, so that's really interesting. That's a completely different finish. And it does look, I guess the issue here is that some of it, the silica looks like it's clumping maybe. I think I'm going to have to be mindful of that. But yeah, that's cool. This is not the right handle for these brushes. I'm so sorry. All right, so now we've got... Okay, that's so interesting. I'm a little worried about that because it looks like it's... Oh no, just needs a bit of like agitating. So basically the three options are a little bit of texture, like a tiny amount, very subtle, but then I'm concerned about the paintbrush lines because I can clearly see that. So that's out. Then we've got this roller here, and that's definitely lifting up more. But then we've got this roller here, and the texture is a lot better. I think because everything's so white, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to choose that one. I need to find the actual roller. I think it's outside. Okay, so that is the paintbrush, and as you can see, I'm a little bit concerned about the brush stroke, so that's something I won't be able to avoid, so I won't be using the brush. This was the first roller brush, and then this is the second, and that's got a lot of texture. I wonder if I put too much sand in that. I can try less and keep testing, but I think just got to go for it. It's a white space. I think it's going to look absolutely stunning. All right, decision made. But before I could get started on that, I had to apply a couple of coats of primer all over the plaster. Here we go. This was so exciting, and straight away I knew it was exactly what this space needed. I learned pretty quickly not to linger over an area for too long with the roller or to overpaint, otherwise the sand would clump together, and if I needed to cut in with the texture paint, such as the ceiling and side wall, I had to paint that area after straight away because the texture paint dries really quickly, and once it's on, there's no going back. If you cut in using normal paint, you would wait for it to dry, but not in this case. You need to move really fast. Because of this, I limited how much I used a paintbrush because it would give a completely different finish to the roller. And while this was all happening, our Sparky came back to reinstall our mid-century pennant lights that we had over the kitchen island in our last house, as well as the chrome wall sconce, both of which you will see later on. Next up was the grouting, and this is where grouting will be a huge bonus because it will hide some of the wider gaps between the Zellige tiles. Although in saying that, I think these imperfections work in my favour. Zellige tiles are not meant to be perfect, so I can hide behind some of my own tiling. For the laundry and sides of the kitchen island, we chose your normal white grout. I used a Japanese rubber trowel, which I found very easy to use. For the splashback and the top of the kitchen island, we used epoxy grout, and this was where things got really tricky. The positives is that it's hard wearing and stain and oil proof, but it's absolutely horrible to work with. We used Marpay, and this grout goes off in about 45 minutes, meaning it's not usable after that. It was very difficult to use, and we found using plastic spatulas to be the best method because the tiles are not smooth. We found scraping off the excess grout as we went along was a great approach and made cleaning the tiles later on a little easier. However, unfortunately, we learned the hard way about grout haze, which is the residue epoxy grout leaves on tiles, which is such a shame because we lost a lot of the gloss on the Zellige tiles, and honestly, that's the reason why we bought them. I bought some grout haze remover, and honestly, I don't think it did much. I was so upset. I spent days and days tiling, and for those tiles to lose their glossy sheen was absolutely devastating. Part of the removal process is to use a scrubbing sponge, and that wasn't amazing either, and I really began to wonder if a magic sponge could work. After testing one of those, both wet and dry, dry came out on top, which was a huge surprise, and that's what we ended up using. Next, I applied gap filler around the sides of all the tiled areas. I like to use wipes to tidy the filler because it limits the amount of waste on my fingers, and it also gives it a consistent, tidy finish. Next, it was time to install the hardware. My friend Elle from Reframe Design chose our pantry handle, and I was so inspired. I ended up choosing 6 different knobs and pulls, but to keep it cohesive, they were all made from nickel. We didn't have any hardware on the cabinetry in our last house, so I was very excited to be given the opportunity to do things differently in this house. And the reason why I decided to add lots of different hardware was to keep in line with our overall theme, which was to add as much texture and mixed materials as possible to bring life to our all-white kitchen. Installing the knobs and pulls was really easy. We used a handled template to mark the locations, drilled pilot holes and screwed each knob and pull from the back, and opening the cabinetry is so much easier now. It also limits the cabinets from getting dirty. I'm so excited to show you the full reveal next week. I ended up driving to Mapleton, which is about 45 minutes from where I live, in search of some gorgeous autumn branches. As you can see, I found some, and thankfully no one yelled at me, which was such a relief. Okay, see you next week.